Naaman was a mighty commander, honored, wealthy, and respected, yet beneath his shining armor he hid a devastating secret: leprosy. The disease was a silent enemy. He had everything but his health. This disease would eat his flesh until his limbs fell to the ground. Leprosy. It is as deadly as it is painful and shameful. No victory or treasure could free him from his suffering. Each night, alone, he faced the truth. His strength masked a deep private sorrow. This was his secret sorrow. A mighty commander, brought low by hidden pain, longing for hope. Isn't it crazy how even the most powerful people still face battles they can't win on their own? But God had a plan. In his house there was a young Israelite servant girl, taken captive in war, quietly served his wife. Despite her loss, she clung to her faith in the God of Israel. When Naaman suffered from a terrible disease, she bravely said, "If only my master would see the prophet in Samaria, he would cure him." Her words, filled with hope and compassion, planted a seed in barren ground. Sometimes the smallest voices bring the greatest hope and spark extraordinary change. Hope had entered Naaman's house from the most unlikely source. A young girl whose faith would change many lives. Clinging to hope, he prepared for his journey. He arrived in Israel. He presented the letter to the king, expecting a transaction between powerful men. But the king of Israel panicked, tearing his robes in fear. "Am I God to cure leprosy?" he cried, seeing the request as a political trap. Earthly authority was powerless against his suffering. His journey, meant to bring hope, had led to confusion and dead ends. He was no closer to a cure, his treasures untouched, his desperation growing. The answer he sought was not in wealth or politics, but in faith. Sometimes we too misplace our faith, placing our trust for answers in kings and mighty men as Naaman did. We must seek to place our trust and faith in God before we seek earthly balms. The prophet heard of the king's distress and sent word, "Send Naaman to me." Naaman arrived at Elisha's humble home, expecting a grand welcome and dramatic ritual. Instead, the prophet didn't even come out. A messenger delivered a simple command: "Go, wash 7 times in the Jordan and you will be cleansed." No ceremony, no recognition of his status, just a plain instruction. Naaman was stunned. This was not the spectacle he expected. The answer to his desperate prayer was humble and direct. Healing would come, but on God's terms, not his. No payment, no special treatment, just obedience. Obedience, not the murky water nor the clear blue springs, but obedience to God's instruction was the cure to his leprosy. The path to his miracle was through a muddy river, not a royal court. God's power was offered freely, requiring only trust. Naaman faced a choice: cling to pride or accept a simple act of faith. Faith is not just belief, it's belief in action. You can't claim to have faith and refuse to follow God's instructions. Sometimes the greatest answers come in the simplest forms, in muddy water. When we ask of God, we must also be ready to do not what we want or think is best, but as he commands. His reaction was anger, not relief. He felt insulted, no audience with the prophet, just a message to wash in a foreign river. "Aren't the rivers of Damascus better than all the waters of Israel?" he scoffed. His pride was wounded. He expected a grand gesture, not a humble command. The simplicity of the solution offended him. He was ready to leave, unhealed, but with his pride intact. His pride was a greater barrier than his disease. He almost walked away from his miracle, unwilling to humble himself. Sometimes pride keeps us from the very thing we need most. Bible says, pride goes before a fall, and a haughty spirit before destruction. Do not allow your pride to leave you broken and leave God's perfect answers on the table. Take the job God has offered. Take the wife God has offered. Take the husband God has offered. Take the healing path God has offered. He knows best. His servants intervened with gentle wisdom. My father, if the prophet had asked you to do something great, wouldn't you have done it? They appealed to his reason, not his pride. How much more then when he tells you, wash and be cleansed? The task wasn't difficult, just humbling. The greatest gift required only a simple act of obedience. He listened, considering their logic. Sometimes wisdom comes from unexpected places. The servant's gentle counsel was a turning point. They guided Naaman back to the path of healing. It was humility, not power, that opened the door to his miracle. He was ready to try one last time. But hear me on this. God does not adjust to us. We adjust to him. His word is not a suggestion. It's not a menu where we pick what we like. It's a command. Humbled and desperate, Naaman made his way to the banks of the Jordan River, the place he had once dismissed as unworthy. The river's muddy waters flowed quietly, unremarkable to any passerby. There were no crowd to witness his struggle, no ceremony to mark the moment. Just a solitary man, burdened by disease and pride, standing before the water. He stepped in, feeling the mud between his toes, and dipped himself once. Nothing happened. Twice, 3 times, 4, 5, 6. Each time he rose, his skin unchanged, his heart wrestling with doubt. The water was cold, and each dip felt heavier than the last. Every dip was an act of faith, a battle against his own skepticism, and the voice inside urging him to give up. Yet, he pressed on, clinging to the prophet's words. On the 7th time, as he emerged from the water, something miraculous happened. His skin was transformed, smooth and healthy. His flesh was restored, as flawless as that of a young baby. The years of suffering and shame were washed away in an instant. The disease that had defied doctors, wealth, and power vanished before his eyes. Relief and wonder filled his heart. Naaman fell to his knees in gratitude, realizing the power wasn't in the water itself, but in his humble obedience to God's word. Not only was his body healed, but his heart was changed. He felt a peace he had never known before. The proud commander who had arrived at the river was gone. In his place stood a man humbled, grateful, and transformed. He gazed at his reflection, seeing not just healed skin, but a new spirit within. A man changed both inside and out. The miracle was more than physical. It was a spiritual awakening, a new beginning for Naaman. Naaman's story spread, becoming a testament to the power of humble obedience and the grace that follows. Sometimes the greatest miracles come not through grand gestures, but through the simplest acts of faith and trust. He emerged from the Jordan, not just healed, but renewed, a new man, ready to live with gratitude and faith. Overflowing with gratitude, he returned to give thanks. We must always remember to return with thanksgiving. Our gratitude reflects a heart that is changed before God. No longer proud, he declared, now I know there is no God except in Israel. His healing was more than physical, it was a revelation. Naaman offered gifts, but the prophet refused. I will not accept a thing. God's grace is not for sale. It is freely given and is to be given to others without cost. Freely the sacrifice and grace of God are given, and freely we are to give it to others. He wanted a lasting connection to the God who healed him. Naaman left Israel changed, a worshipper, not just a healed man. He arrived trusting in wealth and status. He left trusting in God. The greatest gift was not healing, but a transformed heart. His journey showed that God's grace is received, not earned. True faith is found in humility and obedience. This life-changing story is a timeless lesson for us all. We each have struggles that our own strength cannot fix. Like Naaman, we often seek grand solutions, missing the simple path God offers. God's power is unleashed through humble, faith-filled obedience. What is your Jordan River? What simple step is God asking you to take? It might be forgiveness, a small act of service, or letting go of pride. Miracles often wait on the other side of obedience. Let go of your expectations. Trust God's way. Listen for His guidance, even from unlikely sources. Step into your Jordan River. You may find your greatest miracle in a simple act of faith, in the depths of muddy water. Please like, share, and hit the bell for more Bible-based videos. Drop a comment in the box. Let me know your thoughts. God bless.